This is a 2015 Speedball Clay Boss. This wheel has been wildly successful in many arenas of throwing for its capability, its affordability, and its style. So, let's talk Speedball. Blink, blink. This particular model has a 100-pound centering capacity with a whopping half horsepower CVM or continuously variable motor. If we look at this guy's big brother, the Big Boss, we will see a 1 horsepower industrial motor with a 175-pound centering capacity. If we then look at the Clay Boss's little sister, the Artista, we would see a 3rd horsepower with a 25-pound centering capacity. It's quite quirky as well, with some very interesting fold-out legs that are detachable. It also features a hand-operated foot pedal. But today, I am reviewing this Speedball Clay Boss. First, I'm going to take you on a tour and show you all of the quirks and features of this personal wheel. Then, I'm gonna take it out on the road, and then I'll give it an Emily score. First, taking a look at this exterior, we see this sort of 90s style paintbrush graphic, which is the Clay Boss badge, an interesting exterior item that has been consistent in the manufacturing of this cool little wheel. With this splash of color on the side, it looks really cool and retro. Since we are on the exterior here, take a look at these legs. What seems like normal legs are actually a very nice feature. If you look closely, we notice these screws. These are height adjustment. So if your workspace floor is a bit uneven, your wheel can accommodate. And if you'd like to throw your pottery on a bit of a higher platform, well, you can as well. Working our way under the hood, let's take a look at the motor and wheel mount housing. We can see just how small of a motor this is, but it really does pack a lot of torque. An interesting feature that the Clay Boss boasts is a load sensing control, which will level your speeds off under varying loads. So even though you're throwing 10 pounds of clay, your top speed will be the same if you are throwing 100 pounds of clay. Now that's pretty cool. The Clay Boss features the normal power switch, but if you look at the connector cord going from the motor housing to the wheel head, you will see something a little quirky. It has a hidden reversal switch allowing the driver to throw whichever direction feels most comfortable. The way you switch directions is quite quirky as well. First, unplugging it from the wall, you'll find an unusual connection at the base of the cord. This connection is actually what reverses the direction. First, you have to disconnect the cord, flip it the opposite direction, and plug it back in. An interesting way of switching directions for sure, but also a safeguard from switching the wrong direction by accident. So in my book, this quirk is actually a very nice feature. Moving on down to the foot pedal here, we will see our first interior quirk. Some sandpaper on the top of the foot pedal would seem to most quite strange, but the engineers at Speedball understand at high speeds when slip and water are flying off the bat, your foot may become slippery. So they added some sandpaper to increase that traction. Sitting in the driver's seat here, we then notice the quirky shape of the polyurethane tabletop just behind the wheel. It has this rounded side as per the standard for most potter's wheel, but at the back features this larger square section, which serves as a table for all your throwing supplies. Looking at this, we also see the splash pan, which follows the same unusual shape as the tabletop. Taking a closer look at the sides of this splash pan, we see this interesting release mechanism. All you have to do to detach these two sections of splash pan from each other is push on the levers on either side, outwards and back. Then once you're done hosing it off, they just clip right back together. Pretty nifty. Since we have the splash pan off, let's take a look at this 14-inch sturdy steel structure wheel head. Looking at the underbelly of this chassis, we will see the lug nuts of the bat pins. These are aftermarket lugs and pins, but we will see how they perform during our test drive. All right, those are all of the quirks and features of this wheel.
And now it's time to take the Clay Boss for a spin.
All right, let's see what this baby can do. You can almost just instantly feel that torque. It's not the biggest rush I've gotten from a test drive, but it is so smooth. The continuously variable motor helps to find the perfect speed. Just listen to that motor purr. Now that we're ready, let's take it on the road. You can really feel the centering capacity. If you can hear that knocking, that is actually the bat pins coming loose from the chassis. It is at this point that I'll have to stop, reconvene, and get back with you. I can really feel the mechanism working at keeping a consistent speed throughout my throwing experience. Whew, I am at top speed. And yet again, the bat pins have decided to come loose. And we're back to butter smooth. And now it's time to give this Speedball Clay Boss an Emily score. Starting with the weekend categories and styling, the Clay Boss has a unique physique that gives it just enough quirkiness to be cool. It is certainly not the most beautiful or ugliest wheel out there, an easy 8 out of 10. The acceleration is quite substantial for this middle-of-the-road wheel at top RPM of 240, although it has a hard time peeling out when flooring it, giving it a 7 out of 10. The handling is nice considering the adaptive cruise control and the CVM, but bat pins continually coming loose really brings the score down, 6 out of 10. Fun factor is not as strong as I would have imagined. The acceleration can be sluggish, and stopping to adjust the bat pins every so often gives it 3 out of 10. Cool factor is elevated a bit by its 90s badging and retro coloration. If I saw this at a Wheels and Waffles, I'd give it a second glance, 5 out of 10. For a total weekend score of 29 out of 50. Now onto the daily categories, starting with features, which this wheel has a surprising amount of, and it gets a 7 out of 10. The comfort of this wheel is commendable with the height adjustment options, 8 out of 10. Quality is there, but lacking. This wheel doesn't seem like the have it for 30 years type with the buzzy acceleration, but there are readily available parts if something does break, 6 out of 10. Practicality is high with this mid-range wheel, 8 out of 10. This wheel isn't particularly thrilling or exciting, but it is a reasonably affordable wheel that keeps its value fairly well, 7 out of 10. for a daily score of 36 out of 50. Add it up, and the Emily score is 65 out of 100. Although the bat pins come loose and the acceleration could use a tune-up, this reliable mid-range wheel will get you where you need to go without the insanely high price tag of some of its competitors. Blink, blink.